And we're back with another video, and today we're going to talk about something I don't want to talk about, but something I feel like I have to talk about because I've been getting messages and requests and some very interesting inquiries that break my heart, to be honest with you all, make me feel horrible because I wish I could help everybody. I wish I could bail some of you out that are going through some tough times, because what's happening right now with these declining in car values is people aren't making their car payments, and some of you folks are finding yourselves in some hardships, and a few of you who got nailed with big markups, I'll keep your names confidential, but hit me up and told me that now you cannot afford the car. And it just breaks my heart, because apparently there were banks out there that let you accept a massive negative equity in that car, meaning they allowed you to finance a big chunk, if not all, of that markup, which I was hoping banks would not let happen, but apparently they did, which means some of you out there bought the cars, the dealer said, no problem, we got you done, give us $5,000 down, even $10,000 down, a $20,000 markup still puts you $10,000 over MSRP in a massively inflated market, and now things are getting worse. So I'm going to share with you all what you can do, what you should do, how to handle this situation if it's happening to you. And also, well, I'll start off in a second. Let's jump in the car, let's jump in the swinger and talk about this stuff, because if I can help just a couple of you maneuver through what could hopefully be a short-term problem for you, how about this? It's always a short-term problem. You'll get through it. You'll be able to muscle through it. I muscled through it when I went through it. So I'm going to share with you exactly how to get through this nightmare of you not being able to cover the humongous car payments you're in right now, the economy sliding, and you getting stuck in a 12, 13. One kid told me at Cars and Coffee that he was sitting on an $1,800 car payment on his narrow body Hellcat. That is unbelievable. That is incredibly painful, and he will not get out of that car in his lifetime. And here's what's tough. The kid was like 27, 28 years old and got buried in it, and the banks, they just let him have it because money was falling out of the sky at that point. But now it's not falling out of the sky. Now, unfortunately, people are stuck with the hangover of the last 3 years. While I'm glad car values are dropping, the problem is it's going to hurt a lot of people, and it's going to hurt some of you. So let's talk about this. Let's jump in the swinger and have a little chat, because I don't think my neighbors want to hear me talk in my driveway anymore in the evening. All right, so let's jump right in, and let me just start off with, I have received two, and thank goodness it's only two, but two people who hit me up literally asking me if they could borrow money to get through, quote, the next month and not lose their car. And I wish I could just send you money. I wish I had that kind of excess that I could help you out. I feel horrible not being able to just help someone in need out, whether it was a perfect stranger or someone who's loyally following my channel. But unfortunately, I can't. There's a rule I have, and I've had with my wife since we got married, where we both found ourselves with high highs where we had lots and lots of money, and low lows where we didn't have any. And when we didn't have any, we didn't borrow from anybody. We just took the beatings. We ended up going bankrupt. We lost it all. It was bloody. It was horrible. I'm ashamed to even admit it. It was nasty. I mean, I can't begin to tell you the series of horrible events leading to losing everything. But because of that experience, having gone through it at a much younger age, I've learned some valuable lessons. And one lesson is, one, you can't save everyone. Two, people have to go through their own experience. And I hate to say that, but that's what my folks said to me, and I heard so many times growing up, is you're gonna have to go through your own experiences. And in this situation, if you're falling behind in your car payment and you're worried about being able to avoid the repo man for another month, or rent's behind or something like that, you just got to know, me sending you $1,000 out of the kindness of my heart's not going to save you. The problem that you're in is much deeper, and you're better off cutting your losses now and figuring out a cut and run solution that gets you to the other side sooner than later. And I'm not saying to run out and file bankruptcy, but I'm telling you there are situations where you need to just cut and run, meaning you can't keep hanging on to that car payment and not feeding your family. You can't keep hanging on to that rent on that fancy place and then not feeding your family. If you've lost your job and you've got to whittle back your expenses, you've got to do it. I'm set up in my life to where I can literally liquidate every single asset I have if I need to in a 30-day period and completely start over, and this time without going bankrupt, without losing everything, because I've made sure that I'm not trapped. Now that is a 53-year-old beaten man talking to you all right now. But for some of you young guys out there, you haven't gone through it yet and you're about to go through it, and to you it's the end of the world. But I'll tell you, it's not. It's frankly the beginning, because once you learn that lesson and you come out the other side, like me, you're able to help people get through their stuff. So today I'm just going to talk about the car payments, because I learned every possible maneuver when it came to falling behind on stuff, and it happened. And I got to a place to where back in 2007, in the middle of that horrible recession, where at literally, what was I, 36 years old or so, and I was about $1.5 million in debt. I got audited by the IRS, and my tax guy literally made headlines for being one of the biggest crooks in the world, and my dumb young self believed this white-haired guy with little glasses looked like a Santa Claus type, and I believed him and trusted him in his big giant house and his gorgeous office with oak-lined walls and tax books behind him, and he said, no, you're doing the right thing, and that led to a $300,000 episode. So I will tell you, it's all happened, and then the recession hits and my house drops in half, and it just all happened. Sister, unfortunately, sadly, ends up and I hate even bringing this up, but passes away, and I end up having to go still figure out how to work, still pay all the bills, still take care of our child as a baby, and it just kept getting bad. I remember one time when things were really good and I thought I owned the world. I had literally well over $1.5 million worth of stuff and lots of cash in the bank. I remember thinking, I'm invincible. Come get me, world. Nothing can take me down. I'm unstoppable. And the second you say that, you get the crap beat out of you. And that's what happened to me. So now I don't tempt fate. I don't ask for these things to test me anymore. I like to just figure out things without having to go through the hardest possible process to get there. So for all of you, I'm going to share with you what to do if you're behind on your car payments, okay? So here's the deal. If you think you're going to get behind on your car payment today, and you know you're upside down in your car, the first thing you need to do immediately is call your bank. Call them now. Here's why. You're not the only one going through that. They've got a whole bunch of people that are going through that are not communicating with them, that they're ramping up repo processes to take those cars. And they don't necessarily like that, because there's large amounts of fees and costs involved to go repo a car. So they'll call and they'll mail letters and they'll automated calls, text messages, you name it, all that stuff. The automated stuff will come through, emails telling you you're behind. But I will tell you, as soon as you know you're about to get behind, before you get 30 days, you pick up the phone and you call your lender. You call them right up front. And I know that's hard to do, especially for us men. We don't want to call and face that music because it kind of brands us as losers or failures. You're not. You got stuck in a situation, you thought things were going to be good, and you were wrong. You put everything on red and it went black on roulette, and you lost. Don't beat yourself up. Learn from it. But call the bank and say, I'm in trouble. Now, here's the thing. If your situation with your incoming finances, your incoming revenue, your paychecks, the money you earn to pay your bills, if that is a temporary drop in amounts, or if you lost your job and you have a financial hardship, in many cases, my experience, many if not all, lenders will give you a 3-month skip. Sometimes it's 1 month, sometimes a 2 month, but I've never seen it where you couldn't get at least a 3 month, maybe even a 4. In the middle of COVID, everybody was doing it and it was all over the internet. But I will tell you, back when I was going through my stuff, I learned that those were opportunities to be able to get to the other side and figure out the expenses, get a little breather, and sometimes you need that breather to sit back and figure out a solution, a way to get through your dilemma, your challenge. So I sat down with a salesperson that worked at my company at the time. She was in tears, she was losing everything, and she was having trouble just paying for her housing expenses, and her car, which was an older BMW, she couldn't get out of it, and she needed a car, but she couldn't keep making that payment and pay her rent. So I called up with her in the room, and we both talked to the rep at, I believe it was BMW Financial, and asked for a 3-month skip, and without hesitation, the person on the other end said no problem, and they processed it through. Some banks will make you sign something. Nowadays it'll be a DocuSign. Some banks will just do it, and it doesn't affect your credit. It doesn't report as any lates. You're clean, you're good, as long as you pick up at the end of that 3 months. Now those 3 months that they waived, they didn't waive them. They skipped them and stuck them to the end of the loan. But if that gets you to the other side to be able to start making those payments again, awesome. So take advantage of that. But if you wait until you're 31 days late on the car, then your credit's going to get dinged, and they're not likely to want to work with you because you weren't very communicative until things were too late, meaning you're willing to let it go that far again. So you want to call them up as a responsible borrower and say, look, I messed up, I got buried in this car, I can't get out of it, but I can make this payment, but I need 3 months. And if your payment's $1,000 a month, let's just say that's $3,000 of a win you get. Kick it to the end, you'll get through it to the other side. Especially if you're young, you'll be able to be making more money down the road and get through this, hopefully very temporary scenario that you're going through. The next thing you need to do is figure out how upside down in the car that you are. So if you owe $60,000 on your car and you go to CarMax, Shift, Carvana, Car Buyer USA was the best one for me so far, and all those websites, and you find out that wholesale, drop off, hand them your keys, they're going to give you 50 grand on your $60,000 loan balance car. That means you have a $10,000 problem. That means that on a wholesale, just drop it off at the dealership or trade it in on a car, you're probably $10,000 upside down. You don't have $10,000. If you had $10,000, you wouldn't be in the situation you're in right now, right? So here's what you do. Now you go put that car up for sale with a $5,000 negative, and you find $5,000. And because your credit hopefully still good, because you're starting early, you're not waiting till it's too late, you borrow that money if you need to, because I'd rather you be making $150 a month payment on your credit card at a high interest rate until the other side of this thing than to have a car repo. You could literally, and I'm not telling you to do this, but get in so much trouble that you charge off that credit card and you still come out and default completely, and you'll still come out better on settling that thing out over time than getting stuck with a car repo, a repossession. I'm not telling you to do that, but you're better off getting out of that damn car, because us car lovers, having a repossession is a really bad thing. I don't want one, you don't want one. When you get through the other side, that car repossession's hanging around your neck for the next 7 years on your credit. That is not something that's going to hurt you every time you go to buy another car. So you want to avoid that. Next, once you know how much you can get for it, you're going to put it up for sale. And if you get a buyer, you're going to meet him at your bank. That way the deal can be done at the bank. If your loan's with a credit union, it's really great, because a lot of times the credit unions will help facilitate the entire thing, which is even better. But if it's not at a credit union and it's, Dodge Financial or something like that, you need to call them and say, look, I'm selling the car. What's the process and timeline to get the pink slip when I do sell this car? And they'll tell you, and then follow that procedure. Get the purchase contract when you sell the car, do all that paperwork. You're going to take that money and send it directly, have them give you a cashier's check, make it out to Dodge Financial, put your account number on it, follow the instructions that you got from when you pulled the payoff off of the website where your loan is actually housed. If it's a credit union, you can get it there. If it's a Dodge, you can get it there. You can just click give me a payoff. They'll give you a 14-day payoff, and that's the amount of money you send off when that buyer gives you that cashier's check. If the buyer's getting a loan, then you've got to go work it out with their bank, and a lot of times you can just take that car to that bank, if it's Wells Fargo or another bank, and sit down and they'll help do all that paperwork for you. But get that car sold, and if you have a negative, cover that negative. Borrow if you need to, but get out from underneath that car. But that's how you limit that negative from a $10,000 negative to maybe a $5,000 or a $4,000 negative. Now, what if you don't have that? There's nothing you can do to get out from underneath that. Still call the bank and ask them if they would convert any part of that loan to a signature loan. Some credit unions will, okay? So if you're upside down, they would much rather get most of their money on that car than lose that whole thing and have to actually repossess that car. Now, this happened in the last recession. I don't know if banks will do it today, but as things progressively get worse, you're better off asking the bank, say, I did the math, I'm $6,000 upside down, I can sell it today, you guys can get all that money, could you convert the rest to a signature loan? Again, credit unions, banks, you got a better chance of getting that done. And the interest rate's going to be high on those kinds of loans. But if you're not late on your payment yet, it's going to be easier to get that done than to keep struggling on that big, huge car payment. All right, so some of you right now are thinking, that's all fine and dandy. I sell my car. Let's say I do get through that. How the hell am I supposed to get to work? Ride a skateboard? I got to keep my car. I can't sell it. I can't just go without a car. That's ridiculous. I agree. I understand. So here's the deal. Remember, if you can get through getting rid of that albatross that's wearing you out financially without damaging your credit or having minimal damage to your credit, then you can go get a cheap car to live to fight another day, and to get through this temporary situation you're in. And for you, it may be forever, and you can't imagine driving a $10,000 to $15,000 car. But I'll tell you, go to Wild Rose 911 and get yourself a cop car for $10,000, and you'll love that thing, and it'll drive forever, and it'll never break. Or just go get yourself a Corolla, get yourself something, and get through to the other side. I actually took over payments in the middle of the recession for another friend of mine who was in trouble, who couldn't make their car payments, and they're about to go repo. And I said, look, let's do a one-page contract. I'll take over the car, I'll put it under insurance, and I'll make the payments on that thing, and I'll drive that thing to get to the other side of this nightmare. And we helped each other out. So I went from an $1,800 Mercedes payment to a $543, what was it? It was a Land Rover, an older Land Rover payment, and it got us through the other side. So you figure out your transportation, but it may mean you maybe trading in your car and rolling some negative in. I don't like doing that because you're just kind of kicking the problem down the road. But if it gets you to a low enough payment and the bank's willing to absorb some of that and you can live to fight another day, then go ahead. But ideally, get rid of one and try to limit your exposure on the next car by simply getting a cheaper car with a warranty that's reliable, so you don't end up with huge repair bills that force you into another repo situation. And then lastly, the worst case scenario is a repo. But here's the deal. If you have to repo the car, you know that it's going to happen. Do it voluntarily and do it before you get a bunch of lates. Let me tell you how this works. If you're 5 months late on your car and you're running from the repo man, we saw people doing this last recession. They're removing their license plates, putting dealer tags on the back, they're parking backwards in stalls, they're doing everything they can to try to make their car not able to be found by the repo man. And if you're doing that dance, remember, here's what happens. You're getting 5 late payments, you're racking up massive amounts of default fees, repossession fees, fees galore. You wouldn't believe how bad it gets. And then they're still going to get the car, they're still going to hit you the repo, and it's going to show that you absconded with that car for 3, 4, 5 months. If you're going to have to walk from that thing, go walk from it. Give them the keys, make a deal, I've got to give it back, and take that beating. And if you're young, don't worry, it's going to go away. You're going to be able to get through it. At least you won't have a bunch of late car payments. You'll just have a voluntary repo. Yes, it's bad. It's really bad. It's going to be really hard to get a car loan, but it's not going to be as bad, especially with your FICO score, to have 5 or 6 late payments and then a repossession where they had to come and steal the car away from you. That's really, really bad. So that's a situation there. Or And the last one's the worst one ever, is you drive the wheels off it and you pray and hope that they don't get you in the middle of a work day or at a friend's party where they repo your car. I will tell you, never should anyone let that happen. The fact that anyone lets that ever happen is astonishing to me. Get on the phone and work with the bank and work to resolve the problems. Believe me, they have full departments in economies like this and situations like this when repos start to go through the moon, and where they want to work with you and they want to figure out a solution, because taking that thing back, ripping it from your driveway after chasing you for 5 months is not the best option for them. So with that, everybody, I hope this helps some of you out there, and just know it will pass. You got nailed on your car, you paid too much for it, you're upside down like you wouldn't believe, there's no way out. Oh, I've got to share this with you too, is yes, they're going to wholesale that car, they're going to auction that car off when they repo it from you. Whether you voluntarily repo it or whether you involuntary and abscond with the car and they end up taking it back from you, and yes, there's going to be a big chunk of money that they're going to come after you for afterwards. It's called recourse money. They're going to come after you for whatever that negative is. So if you do an involuntary repo, you make them chase you, that number is going to be enormous. If you go hand it back to them, that number is going to be a lot smaller, because they don't have all those fees to have to pay the repo man and the collection companies to chase you down. And then you're going to have that amount. And let's say that amount is $5,000. Immediately tell the bank, I'm going to give you the keys back, and then I'm going to call you in a month and we're going to work through how to pay you back that $5,000. And I'm going to make you on-time payments on that $5,000 in exchange for maybe you not reporting that, or that deficiency, for example. But try to negotiate with them. But worst case, you're going to negotiate how you're going to pay that $5,000. And if you can come up with some money, oftentimes they're going to settle for half or even less than half, depending how bad this situation gets with car repos. And then you're going to get out from underneath it, and you're going to be beaten up, you're going to be banged up, but you're going to live to fight another day. And I'm telling you, you get your credit good, you get a year. 6 months is sometimes it's okay to get a new car loan, but you're going to be paying through the nose. Big down payment, huge interest rate, and horrible terms. Usually about a year afterwards, no late payments. You did everything you could right to resolve that last issue, and you solved that negative problem and made all your other credit good. You kept paying the bills on that. You'll be back on your feet before you know it. And as far as filing bankruptcy, you can do a repo when you do the bankruptcy, but generally I will tell you, if you tie it in and you try to hang on to the car for a long period of time, your credit's just going to get thrashed. So a bankruptcy should be the last possible. Like literally, when my wife and I went to court and we're bankrupting, $500,000-$600,000. I mean, it was just bloody and brutal. It was just, we couldn't get out. We were done. The audit just killed us, and we found a loophole. Our attorney found a loophole to be able to include that, which is very rare. So we were able to get through that. Sorry for the lighting going up and down. But we were able to get through that, and as a result, come out the other side and learn a big, expensive lesson. But there were people in there bankrupting $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, which I guarantee you, every one of those debtors, every one of those banks would have negotiated that down by 70-80%, and they wouldn't have had to file bankruptcy. So you got to talk to people that know it. If anybody's going through this right now, you're welcome to message me on Instagram, and I will help walk you through your personal situation. It just might take a week or so for me to get back to you, because every time I do a video, I get a ton of messages, and then I try to whittle through them and get back to all of you. But if you're in that dire situation, put in the header, just put help. You can also email me at ocmotivator@gmail.com and put help, and then I will help you. And by the way, I'm not judging you, because I got judged when I went down, and some of you are going to comment and judge me for what my wife and I went through. It was a long time ago, but it's like yesterday to us, and we ain't going to let it happen again. And I'm going to do everything I can to help any of you out there avoid that outcome as well. So reach out to me, put help in the subject line, and tell me about your situation, and I'll give you the best advice I possibly can based on the experience that I have. So with that, everybody, please like, subscribe, comment, stay motivated, hang in there. Bad times, they pass. They always do. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.